Welcome to a new episode of the podcast. Vox Agent is made by AI for business executives that work with AI. And welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a fascinating stack of sources all about one of the most transformative topics in business and technology, large language models, or LLMs, and their profound impact on content generation. Our mission is to unpack what these powerful AI tools are, what they can truly do, where they're already being used across industries, the incredible benefits they offer, but also, the critical challenges and the strategic implications for anyone involved in creating content, especially in the enterprise sector. So let's unpack this. When we talk about LLMs generating content, what exactly are we referring to?
Right. Well, what we're talking about are these advanced AI systems. They're trained on truly enormous volumes of text data, and their core function really is to predict and then generate language that sounds very human-like.
Okay.
Think of them almost like an AI writer or maybe an assistant. You, the user, give it an input or what we call a prompt.
You the instructions.
Exactly, your instructions. And the LLM outputs a continuation or, a full response based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And because they've processed so much text, they pick up on all these intricate patterns, grammar, style, even general knowledge. This lets them produce text that's usually pre-fluent, coherent, and seems contextually relevant. They can adapt to different tones, too.
It really feels like these LLMs just exploded onto the scene in the last, couple of years? But there's a history here, isn't there? How did we get to this point with content creation?
Yeah, you're right. The acceleration has been incredible. But the groundwork, the current era, you could say, really began with the transformer architecture. That was back in 2017.
Okay, the transformer.
Yeah, that was a real breakthrough. Fast forward just a couple of years. OpenAI released GPT-2, that was 2019, and it showed pretty convincingly that these models could generate coherent text. Then came GPT-3 in 2020, just orders of magnitude bigger. That really set a whole new standard for versatility.
Right.
But the moment it really hit the mainstream, the watershed moment, was definitely OpenAI's ChatGPT in late 2022.
Oh, yeah, everyone was talking about that.
Exactly. Suddenly, millions of people had access through this really easy-to-use chat interface. Everyone was trying it out, drafting emails, writing little articles. And then 2023 just saw this flood of developments. You had OpenAI's GPT-4, which is even larger and multimodal, meaning it can handle images too.
Images, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Plus competitors like Anthropic's Claude, Google's Paloma, which powers Bard, and Meta's Llama, which they actually open sourced. So yeah, the timeline shows this incredibly rapid jump from research labs right into, real-world tools for content production.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering how they actually do this, it's quite interesting. At their core, these LLMs are basically predicting the next word in a sequence.
Just predicting the next word.
Fundamentally, yes. They're not querying some factual database like, say, Google search. They're drawing on statistical patterns they learned from reading billions and billions of sentences. They're trained to sound correct rather than necessarily be correct. And that's a really crucial distinction we'll definitely come back to.
Okay, sounding correct versus being correct. Got it.
And this whole generative process, you can guide it pretty effectively using prompt engineering.
Ah, yes, prompt engineering. That's becoming a skill in itself.
It really is. It's the art and science of crafting your input, your instructions, to steer the LLM towards the output you actually want. So instead of just saying, write about our product, you'd give it something much more specific, like write a friendly 100-word blog post introducing product X, highlight its benefits for small businesses, and use a conversational tone.
Much more specific.
Exactly. And then there are other techniques like fine-tuning the model on specific data and something called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF, which was super important for making ChatGPT follow instructions well and be safer.
Okay, so given all that capability, what are the big upsides? What can these LLMs really do for content creation in a business context?
Oh, the benefits are pretty transformative for content teams. First off, just fluency and coherence. They can produce text that's grammatically sound, well-structured, and often reads incredibly naturally. It can even maintain a narrative over longer pieces.
Okay.
Then there's knowledge integration. They have this vast, maybe sometimes shallow, but very broad knowledge base. So they can pull in relevant info on tons of topics. Like an LLM writing about healthcare marketing might naturally use relevant medical terms because it's seen that kind of language in its training data.
Right, it's absorbed that context.
Exactly. They also have incredible style flexibility. You tweak the prompt slightly, and boom, it shifts from writing a tweet to drafting a formal legal letter. That versatility is huge.
So one tool for many jobs.
Pretty much. And then, of course, the big one, speed.
Yeah.
This is arguably the most practical strength right now, something that might take a human writer hours, even days, to draft. An LLM can spit out a first draft in seconds or minutes. Now, it's not perfect, it needs editing, but it gives you a starting point, which massively speeds up the whole workflow. And finally, there's even a degree of creativity within limits. They can generate creative text slogans, poems, even fictional scenes. They're especially good at brainstorming, generating dozens of taglines for a campaign. Some might even be genuinely quite good.
And what's fascinating here is the numbers. The report mentions some pretty significant productivity gains.
Yeah, the data really backs this up. You see stats like 66% of creative professionals saying AI tools help them produce better content.
Better, not just faster.
Right. And 58% report being able to create more content in the same amount of time. For bigger companies, enterprises leveraging LLMs have, in some documented cases, literally doubled their content output speed.
Doubled.
Doubled. Which translates into saving thousands of work hours and, significant cost savings. That's a massive impact on the bottom line.
Okay, that sounds incredibly powerful. But here's where it gets really interesting. With all that power comes a lot of responsibility and some pretty big challenges. What's the biggest concern that jumps out when we look at these sources?
Yeah, the double-edged sword. Right. The absolute foremost limitation and probably the biggest worry for businesses is accuracy. Specifically, this phenomenon people call hallucinations.
Hallucinations, okay.
Basically, LLMs often produce text that sounds totally plausible, confident even, but it's factually wrong, or completely unsupported by any real information. It's striking, in one enterprise survey, inaccuracy was actually the most cited risk of adopting generative AI, more than cybersecurity, more than regulatory concerns.
No, it's in cybersecurity, wow.
Yeah. And these hallucinations aren't always trivial. They can be minor things like getting a date or a name wrong, but they can also be completely fabricated quotes, made-up statistics, even fake citations. There was that infamous incident, maybe you heard about it, where a lawyer used ChatGPT for a legal brief.
Oh, I think I did hear about this.
Yeah, the AI just inserted completely fictitious case citations, cases that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that led to sanctions from the court. A really serious issue.
And this happens because they're not actually thinking or, verifying facts like a human would, right?
Exactly. That's the critical thing to grasp. They don't have any kind of built-in truth-checking mechanism. They work by predicting the most likely next word based on all the text patterns they learned. They're optimized to sound correct, to generate fluent language, not necessarily to be factually correct.
Right.
They don't know facts in the human sense. They just know patterns that often correlate with facts. And beyond just accuracy, there are other big concerns, like bias and ethical considerations. LLMs learn from human text, and unfortunately, human text contains biases. So the models can reflect or even amplify those biases, things like gender or racial biases or generating culturally insensitive language. There's also the risk of generating toxic content, profanity, hate speech, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now, the leading platforms have content policies and filters.
But they're not perfect.
Definitely not perfect. It's an ongoing challenge. And another huge one, especially for businesses, data, privacy, and security.
Right. Where does the data go?
Exactly. Many of these AI tools, especially the public ones, send your prompts and the content they generate back to external servers for processing.
Yeah.
That raises massive red flags if you're dealing with sensitive or proprietary information.
Like company secrets or client data.
Precisely.
Yeah.
There was a very prominent example, Samsung. Back in May 2023, apparently some engineers leaked sensitive internal source code by pasting it directly into ChatGPT.
Oh, wow. That's not good.
Not good at all. And it led Samsung to actually ban the use of external chatbot tools for its employees. It really highlights the absolute need for secure ways to use these tools and crystal clear usage policies, especially around sensitive corporate data.
This raises an important question then. Given these pretty critical risks to accuracy, bias, data security, how are companies trying to mitigate these and make LLMs more reliable for actual business use?
Yeah, mitigation is absolutely key. And the first, most important strategy, hands down, is keeping a human in the loop.
Human oversight.
Absolutely critical. All AI-generated outputs, especially anything external-facing or critical, must be reviewed by a knowledgeable human. Think about CNET's experiment using AI for finance articles. They found over half of the articles had errors that human editors needed to correct before they could publish. That tells you a lot.
Over half. Okay, yeah.
Then there are technical approaches gaining ground. One is called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG.
RAG.
Yeah. It's a technique where the AI doesn't just rely on its internal training data. It actively pulls information from a trusted knowledge base, maybe internal company documents or the live web in real time. This helps ground the AI's answer in actual verifiable sources. You see this with tools like Microsoft's Bing Chat, which often cites its web sources.
Ah, okay, so it shows its work, sort of.
Kind of, yeah. It makes it more traceable. Another approach is model fine-tuning. You can take a general LLM and train it further on specific domain-relevant data. This can help reduce certain types of errors within that niche. And as we mentioned, clever prompting techniques can sometimes help steer the model away from errors. But again, you have to remember, the LLM itself isn't verifying anything. It's still just predicting text.
So prompts help, but they're not a silver bullet for accuracy.
Exactly. At the end of the day, organizations have to treat AI output like a very sophisticated first draft. It needs checking, verification, editing. It's not final truth out of the box. And it's interesting, despite these strategies, only about 32% of companies surveyed feel they're actually adequately addressing this inaccuracy risk, even though they say it's their top concern.
Only 32%, that's quite a gap.
It is. Shows there's still a way to go in terms of robust implementation and maybe confidence in the mitigation strategies.
It sounds like managing the risks is absolutely key, but clearly the benefits are compelling enough that LLMs are being rapidly adopted across industries. Where are we seeing them make the biggest impact right now?
Oh, the adoption is really widespread now. It's moving fast. The sector with probably the highest uptake so far is marketing and advertising.
Makes sense. Lots of content needed there.
Exactly. They're using LLMs for everything, drafting social media posts for weeks in advance, brainstorming dozens of ad copy variations for A/B testing, writing personalized email newsletters, generating first drafts for blog posts, SEO content. McKinsey research actually confirms marketing and sales are leading the charge in using generative AI.
Okay, marketing's big. Where else?
E-commerce and retail is another huge area, especially for generating product descriptions at scale. Imagine you have thousands of products.
That would take forever manually.
Right. One case study showed a 96% reduction in time per description, from like 30 minutes down to under a minute, plus some editing time. Huge efficiency gain. They're also using it for customer service content and creating more personalized shopping experiences.
96%.
That's dramatic.
Yeah.
Then you have fields like journalism and publishing. They're using AI to assist with generating news briefs, doing research, drafting articles, always under editorial supervision, of course. There's a cool example from the German publisher Express.de. They have an AI digital colleague they named Clara.
Clara, okay.
Yeah. And Clara apparently writes about 11% of their articles now. They reported significant boosts in output and even engagement. AI-curated news saw click-through rates 50 to 80% higher.
Interesting. But human editors are still key.
Absolutely crucial, especially for fact-checking and editorial judgment. You also see it in education and e-learning, generating lesson plans, creating quiz questions, explaining concepts. Khan Academy's Conmigo, based on GPT-4, acts like an AI tutor, guiding students with questions instead of just giving answers. It also used for translating content for global learning programs.
Okay.
And then, of course, corporate communications and documentation. Drafting internal reports, proposals, technical manuals, HR materials like job descriptions, even just everyday emails and memos. Even the legal and compliance fields are exploring it cautiously. Drafting standard documents, summarizing long texts, but, heavy human verification is essential there. We just talked about that lawyer incident.
Right, a cautionary tale.
Definitely. And finally, creative writing and entertainment. Brainstorming plot ideas, generating draft scenes for scripts, creating dialogue for non-player characters in video games. It's really touching almost every area where text is created.
So what does this all mean for existing content teams and for the actual human roles within organizations? Is it really about AI tools replacing people?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And what the sources strongly suggest is that LLMs are best viewed as productivity amplifiers, not direct replacement.
Amplifiers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Writers, editors, content creators, they're increasingly working with AI, using it as a tool. The roles themselves are changing, evolving. We already mentioned prompt engineering becoming a valuable skill. We're also seeing new roles emerge, like AI content editor or even AI ethicist, focused specifically on this.
So new jobs are being created too?
Potentially, yes. Or existing jobs are adapting significantly. And the adoption is happening in vast surveys show a huge majority, something like 83% of creative professionals are already using generative AI in their work to some extent. It's becoming part of the toolkit. And maybe we can compare traditional versus AI-augmented workflows to make it clear.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay, so speed. A blog article might traditionally take, say, 1 to 2 days start to finish. With AI assistance, you get that initial draft in maybe an hour or less.
Yeah.
Then add editing, fact-checking. Maybe you finish it in half a day. Big difference.
Right.
Volume. A human copywriter might produce, let's say, 5 short product descriptions a day. AI-assisted, that same person might review, edit, and finalize 20 AI-generated descriptions in the same time. Throughput skyrockets.
Okay, much higher volume.
Exactly. Cost. Traditional content cost scales pretty directly with human hours. With AI assistance, the cost grows more slowly relative to output. You might get 10 times the content for perhaps 2 or 3 times the human time cost involved in managing and editing.
More efficient use of resources.
Definitely. And flexibility. Traditionally, asking for major revisions or different versions is time-consuming. With AI, you just tweak the prompt, ask for a different tone, and get new drafts in minutes. It supports a much more agile approach. And 2 other key value points here are consistency and customization at scale. You can train an LLM on your brand voice, and it can replicate that consistently across hundreds or thousands of pieces of content. Plus, you can use it to personalize content, like marketing emails for different customer segments, much more easily than before. And for digital content, there are significant SEO benefits, easily incorporating keywords, generating meta tags, optimizing for search.
Looking ahead then, where are LLMs in content generation headed? What should business executives be thinking about for the next, say, 2, 3, 5 years to stay competitive?
Yeah, the crystal ball gazing part. Well, the pace isn't slowing down. First, expect continued rapid improvement of the core LLM capabilities. We'll likely see bigger, more specialized models, think GPT-5 or Google's Gemini, hopefully with better accuracy and lower hallucination rates due to new training techniques or built-in checks.
Better, more reliable models.
Hopefully. There's also a big trend towards embedding tools and knowledge. So future LLMs won't just rely on their training data. They'll be able to actively use external tools, browse the web in real time, query databases, run code, and automatically cite their sources. More like capable research assistants.
So more grounded in real-time data.
Exactly. And lower compute costs should eventually make deploying powerful models in-house more feasible for more companies, addressing some data privacy concerns. All this enables truly personalized content at scale. We're moving beyond just basic segmentation towards potentially segment of one marketing.
Segment of one.
Yeah, imagine an AI curating a daily news digest that's slightly different for every single reader, based on their interests, maybe even written in a style they prefer, or unique product descriptions tailored to an individual shopper's past behavior.
That's highly personalized.
Very. Content teams won't be writing all that. They'll be overseeing the pipelines, guiding the AI on-brand, ethics strategy. Another huge trend is multimodal and rich media generation. LLMs are merging with other AI types. Expect tools that generate whole content packages, text, plus relevant images generated by tools like DALL-E or Midjourney, all integrated.
Text and images together.
Yeah. And text to video, text to audio. Imagine generating simple marketing videos or automatically narrating articles for audio versions. It vastly expands how you can repurpose content. We'll also probably see more interactive content like articles with an embedded chatbot where readers can ask follow-up questions answered by an AI knowledgeable about the article's content.
Okay, so how will this further change our teams and how we work with content?
It's going to profoundly transform workflows and team structures, I think. Content creator roles will likely shift even more towards planning, strategy, editing, and curation, rather than just raw generation. While prompt engineering is a hot skill now, eventually basic prompting might just become a standard skill everyone needs, like using a word processor.
It's part of the job.
Right. But we'll likely see the rise of more specialized roles, like AI content strategists, people who blend marketing expertise with a deep understanding of AI capabilities and limitations. The role of the editor becomes even more crucial, actually. Quality assurance, fact-checking, ensuring brand voice, ethical checks that human judgment becomes paramount when dealing with AI scale.
So editing gets more important, not less.
Absolutely. And culturally, we'll see AI become more integrated. Remember Clara, the digital colleague at Express.de? We might see more of that AI treated less like a tool and more like a very different kind of team member. Upskilling staff in AI literacy is going to be non-negotiable. AI-related skills are already rocketing up the list of fastest-growing skills on job postings.
This feels like more than just a new tool. It sounds like a fundamental strategic shift for businesses. Why is this so strategically relevant for business leaders specifically?
Oh, it absolutely is a strategic issue. For leaders, the first point is competitive advantage. Plain and simple. Companies that can produce more high-quality content faster and more personalized can just outpace their competitors in terms of visibility, SEO ranking, customer engagement, lead generation. That McKinsey survey found 75% of executives expect generative AI to significantly shake up the competitive dynamics in their industry within the next 3 years.
75%, that's huge.
It is. It also unlocks innovation and new opportunities. Things that were maybe impractical before because of cost or time, like those hyper-personalized newsletters or generating rapid draft reports for internal analysis, become feasible. Then there's the clear efficiency and cost leadership angle. Even relatively small productivity gains per employee when scaled across a large enterprise translate into really significant cost savings and better ROI on content efforts.
Makes sense.
And finally, there's a strategic risk in not adopting it. You risk falling behind competitors who are leveraging these tools. Plus, your own talent likely expects access to these tools now. If you don't provide them officially, you risk shadow AI use.
Shadow AI, meaning employees using tools unofficially.
Exactly. Using public tools like ChatGPT for work tasks, potentially exposing sensitive data without any company oversight or guidelines, that indicates a clear need for formal adoption strategies and clear guidance.
What's fascinating here is that the report offers clear adoption strategies. For the business executives listening, what are some of the top recommendations for effectively implementing LLM content generation within their organizations?
Right. It's not just about the tech, but how you implement it. The sources give some solid advice. First, start with pilot projects. Don't try to boil the ocean. Identify some low-risk, high-potential areas, maybe internal communications, first drafts of blog posts, generating product description variants. Use these pilots to actually quantify the gains, learn the pitfalls, and build experience in a controlled way.
Start small, learn fast.
Exactly. Second, and this is critical, develop clear guidelines and policies. You need standards for quality like mandatory fact-checking for any AI-generated claims or data points. Define your grand voice guidelines for the AI. And crucially, establish ironclad data privacy rules. Something explicit like, do not paste confidential client data or internal secrets into any external AI tool. Make it clear as Samsung had to. Also, decide on your stance regarding attribution and transparency for AI-generated content.
Clear rules of the road.
Absolutely. Third, train and upskill your staff. Don't just throw the tools at them. Invest in training on effective prompt engineering, the specific tools you choose, and importantly, the limitations and risks. Emphasize that AI is there to augment their skills, their judgment, creativity, domain knowledge, not replace them.
Empower the humans.
Precisely. Fourth, implement robust oversight and quality assurance processes. This goes beyond just guidelines. Set up actual checkpoints. For example, mandatory human editor sign-off before any external-facing AI content goes live. Create review checklists covering accuracy, tone, bias, brand fit.
Build in the checks and balances.
Yes. Fifth, choose the right tools and partners. There's a growing ecosystem. Do you need the enterprise-grade security of something like Azure OpenAI? Or does an open-source model offer more customization and cost control for your specific use case?
Yeah.
Evaluate based on your context.
Makes sense.
Sixth, integrate thoughtfully. Don't just have AI tools sitting off to the side. Aim for seamless integration into existing workflows and systems. Maybe plugins for your content management system, CMS, that allow drafting right where your team works.
Make it easy to use.
Right. Seventh, monitor metrics and impact. Track things like content volume, time to market, cost savings, audience engagement, but also track error rates and quality issues. Use this data to continuously refine your strategy.
Measure what matters.
Yep. Eighth, address the cultural and ethical questions openly. Talk transparently with your team about why you're using AI. Focus on enhancement, efficiency, freeing them up for higher value tasks, not replacement. Set clear, ethical guardrails, like no generating fake reviews or deceptive content.
Be transparent.
Critically important for trust. And finally, stay updated and flexible. This field is changing incredibly fast. New models, new tools, new techniques, new regulations like the EU AI Act, discussions around watermarking. You need a process for continuous evaluation and adapting your strategy. Ultimately, it's a shift, as one source put it, from just content creation to content orchestration. You're managing a mix of human talent and AI resources to achieve your goals.
That provides a very clear roadmap. Content orchestration. I like that. For our listeners, especially those business executives navigating this new world, what's the one big idea you want them to really mull over after this deep dive?
The one big idea, I think it's this. The future of content, undeniably, is this human-AI collaboration. In a world where AI can churn out, frankly, vast amounts of perfectly passable content, the real differentiator, the thing that will make your business stand out, is going to be the unique human element. It's the critical thinking, the unique insights, the creativity, the authentic voice that guides the AI, refines its output, and infuses it with something genuine. So the challenge isn't just about adopting AI for efficiency gains, though that's important. It's about figuring out how to maintain trust, how to ensure quality, and how to project real originality and value in what's going to be an increasingly AI-saturated information environment. Finding that balance, that's where the real sustainable competitive edge is going to lie.
Oh, it's a powerful thought to leave us with. Thank you for guiding us through this incredibly insightful deep dive into LLMs and content generation. You've gained a shortcut to being well-informed on this critical topic, understanding not just the what, but the why it matters for your business. We hope you're feeling more confident about navigating this evolving landscape and ready to apply these insights. Thank you for joining the podcast, and see you soon.